Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel, and today I'm back here with another My Team Career Mode Season 3 video, and it is the British Grand Prix weekend. But before we get into that, if you guys haven't already watched the last video, which was the Austrian Grand Prix, then click off the video now and go and watch that, because we are going to have a little refresh of what happened last time out, and it was a race full of absolute shenanigans, yet we did manage to come through and take our third win of the season, extending our points tally to 89 points. We managed to take that win by executing a pretty much perfect one-stop strategy. My teammate Charles Leclerc was P2 with the fastest lap. He had better race pace than us, but opted for the two-stop strategy and ultimately paid the price. His points tally now at 106. P3 was Max Verstappen with a solid result in his Red Bull to extend his bank of points to 72, while he was followed by Carlos Sainz, who finished P4, taking his first top 5 finish since Bahrain at the start of the season. He was followed by both Mercedes, Valtteri Bottas leading his teammate Lewis Hamilton, P5 and 6 for those two. And it was a great recovery for Valtteri Bottas after he ploughed into the back of Robert Schwartzman in the Grand Prix and lost his front wing. This was at the penultimate corner as Schwartzman was entering the pit. Bottas recovered well from that. It did also cause a safety car, under which George Russell had a unfortunate mechanical failure. Lance Stroll then ploughed into the back of him. Also under the safety car, not entirely DNFing, Esteban Ocon did crash into the back of the safety car, lost a chunk off his front wing, but unlike Lance Stroll, he was able to continue. The McLaren of Daniel Ricciardo was P7 at the flag, a solid result for him, not so much for his teammate Lando Norris, who failed to finish after a late mechanical failure. P8 was Fernando Alonso, taking advantage of others' misfortunes to add to his points tally, while Sergio Perez was P9, a disastrous race for him in the Red Bull. Thankfully, did manage to finish, but broke his front wing on one of the two Mercs, and then was forced to pit to replace it. Disappointing one for him. P10 was Robert Schwartzman with a fantastic drive in his Aston Martin, taking his first point of the season. What a one-stop strategy that was from Robert. But a very exciting Grand Prix. And of course, the constructor standings is looking quite interesting too. Not so much at the top. We have a very comfortable lead over Red Bull at the moment. But Mercedes are in third with 60 points. They're 20 points ahead of Ferrari and McLaren, who are joint fourth. AlphaTauri are sixth, 20 points behind Ferrari and McLaren with 30 points, while Alpine and Aston Martin follow. Now then, it's time for some R&D. We've got plenty of upgrades coming in for this weekend. 3 major upgrades, I do believe, and a minor upgrade. And I think we're going to try and finish. Yeah, we're going to try and finish the chassis department with that final minor brakes upgrade. That's the target. Hopefully we can get that in for this Grand Prix, as long as we don't have a fail with that one. And we can get some more R&D for just 50k, and I think we'll go with that. Want to keep developing in the car, especially the durability department. We want to invest in that to improve our durability, but also finish off the aero and powertrain departments. At the moment, we have got a minor upgrade in the aero coming in and a major upgrade in the powertrain coming in. So we can't really go for much more other than a durability upgrade, and we're going to go with a major energy store upgrade. We're going to rush that and see if we can get that in for the Hungarian Grand Prix, which is of course after this Grand Prix that we have got today. And we've got a sponsor advertisement. Fuel for a regulator is in, but unfortunately we do have a failure with one of our durability upgrades. A bit of a frustration there, to say the least. It's the MG UK improved materials, reliability testing. We're going to get that sorted, but really frustrating that we can't have that in for this Grand Prix. And we might as well go with the build time upgrade there, just 1.2 million, very cheap compared to some of these other upgrades. And the sponsor relations upgrades, we'll get that off the ground and flying. In the marketing department, we've got the reinforced hydraulic lines in, which means we've completed the chassis department. Totally completed that. All of the upgrades have been completed. Really happy to get that in for this weekend. And we get 5 whole races with a fully completed chassis. Got an aero upgrade in. That is the diffuser additional strakes. And we'll be having a little look at getting the ultimate rear downforce redesign upgrade, and also the fuel efficiency upgrade, the fuel injection system, so we can finish off the powertrain department, which is something I also want to do. But now, of course, we are here at the British GP weekend, but very quickly before we get into qualifying, we are going to have a little look at the components, because we do need a new MG UK. That's looking pretty worn for this weekend, so a fresh one there. Everything else should be all right. So we're going to continue with all the other components. Just needed to change that MG UK. But now, before we get into quali, of course, we have got to have a little look at what happened after free practice. We got plenty of R&D points to get our total to 2,612, so we'll be able to get an upgrade sorted there. In terms of quali, that is going to be entirely dry. We've got sunshine and clouds, and the race will also likely be dry, with percentages only getting up to 20%. It doesn't look too bright and sunny, though, with plenty of clouds. We currently lead Max Verstappen 24 points to 20 in our rivalry. We're looking pretty comfortable to win that one with just one GP weekend left. In terms of the rear downforce redesigned diffuser layout, we can get that in if we rush it for the Hungarian Grand Prix. So we're going to go for that. I am rushing a lot of upgrades, but we really do want to get these in. So that's generally why I'm doing them. We want to try and get them in. We want that extra bit of power, just generally to be pretty much assured as when we're heading into Hungary and Spa that we should still be quicker than the Red Bulls and the Mercs, even though they're certainly not my strongest tracks. In terms of the R&D chart, though, we do extend our lead over the chasing pack. Mercedes and Red Bull very close, as they are always seeming to be this season. Then it's just a little bit back to Ferrari and McLaren, who have caught back up. So a very interesting and close bunch there. The gap to the midfield slightly reduces with some upgrades in there for Alpine. They further extend their gap back to Aston Martin. AlphaTauri are just behind Aston Martin. Plenty of upgrades from them this weekend. They're starting to become competitive again. Be great to see what they can do in quali and in the race. Williams are just a little bit behind them. Then it's Alfa Romeo and Haas, as usual, way off the pace. But it will be very interesting to see how this all pans out into qualifying, because it's looking extremely close at the moment, especially between Mercedes, Red Bull, Ferrari, McLaren. And also, what can AlphaTauri do as they begin their resurgence to hopefully making it back to the top in Q1, Q2, and maybe even Q3. We'll have to wait and see if they can perform there. Welcome to Q1, and we aren't getting straight into qualifying because we are taking a couple of precautionary changes. We are changing the control electronics, which had 61% wear, just as a precaution to avoid any potential mechanical failures this weekend. And we are also changing the energy store, which was at 60%. I know this should be all right for this Grand Prix, but we're taking them as a bit of a precaution just to avoid any unwanted mechanical issues. But now we've got those sorted. Everyone else has set a lap so far, so it's just us out on track now, trying to put down something decent. Of course, starting our first lap here at Silverstone, a big lock up there. That's going to prove costly. We went very wide there too. A very, very messy start to qualifying here. Although it is Q1, so we should be pretty comfortable even if we have a couple of mistakes. Despite that very messy Sector 1, we still do go purple there, so clearly some of the other drivers, maybe my teammate, not performing that well through the first sector, considering we probably lost about 3/10 there. And now continuing on towards the end of the lap, no purple Sector 2, even though it was fairly clean. We are now heading through Sector 3. Latifi, Mazepin, Schumacher, Giovinazzi currently the back of those who set laps. We certainly shouldn't be going there. We haven't been down the order for quite a long time. But now, across the line we go. P2, I'll take that. Just 2/10 behind my teammate. And that is how it stays, looking at the results of Q1. Really happy with that, because 2/10 behind my teammate, and we made some mistakes. But my teammate, of course, is P1 in Q1. But this weekend, so far, I don't feel too far out of reach in terms of being able to take pole. We are P2 ahead of Daniel Ricciardo, P3. Great work from him in the McLaren. for once finding some pace in that papaya orange car. Then it's both the Mercedes. It is Valtteri Bottas ahead of his teammate Lewis Hamilton. That's starting to become a trend in this season in the latest few races. Lando Norris is P6. He'll be a bit disappointed to be so far behind his teammate, 4/10 to be quite exact there. Maybe the low focus for him affecting his performance slightly here in Q1. Esteban Ocon is P7 in his Alpine. Fantastic work there from the Frenchman. You love to see that. Really proving that Alpine is a very solid midfield car. Will we see them feature in Q3? Then in P8, George Russell, the first of the two Ferraris, still though, not a fantastic position to be in. Plenty of work for him as we head into Q2 and Q3. Disappointing lap there. He's in front of Sergio Perez, one of the first two Red Bulls, and they are really, really struggling at the moment. P9 for him, lacking pace. One man who isn't, though, for his car is Fernando Alonso in that Alpine. P10. Might be a bit disappointed to be behind Esteban Ocon, but I'm guessing Ocon went again, and he didn't. P11 is Max Verstappen, both Red Bulls struggling. Verstappen with plenty of work to do. He's currently way behind both Mercs and a little bit behind his teammate. He'll be looking to bounce back in Q2 and Q3. Then we've got the AlphaTauri of Lance Stroll, and what a drive there to be P12. That AlphaTauri is improving, and so are his performances. Not phased by some low focus there is the Canadian, taking home a strong P12 in Q1. Carlos Sainz makes it through to Q2, though P13 is very disappointing for him. Nearly a whole second behind Daniel Ricciardo in similar machinery. Pierre Gasly is P14. He'll be happy to be through into Q2. Little bit off the pace of his teammate, but I'm sure he'll bounce back once we get into the more pivotal part of qualifying. Great to see him and the AlphaTauri improving, though, after a little bit of a drought of good results. Then we got both Aston Martins, Matsushita in front of his teammate Robert Schwartzman. Those two are through, a little bit off the pace of Gasly and the others, so that might be their maximum potential here in qualifying, but great work from Matsushita and Schwartzman for both of them to make it through. Then we are continuing with a 2x2 trend here. Guan Yu Zhou in front of his teammate Yuki Tsunoda at Alfa Romeo, and a great lap from Guan Yu Zhou to be P17. He's featured right at the back in many of the Grand Prix so far this season, and of course in quali. So fantastic to see him P17. Bit disappointing for Yuki to be P18, but I'm sure he will work on that in the race and make it up into the top 15 after some recent good results. Antonio Giovinazzi is P19 in his Williams, and a strong result, only 2/10 behind the Alfa Romeo. Might have wanted to be ahead. Not too bad though. He's in front of Mick Schumacher. Very solid quality result there from Mick Schumacher to be P20 in that still rather uncompetitive Haas. He's in front of Nicholas Latifi. Might be a little bit disappointed to be behind Mick Schumacher, but I'm sure the Williams will probably have a little bit better race pace when it comes to the Sunday. And then, of course, we're getting quite used to it. Nikita Mazepin, P22, although he hasn't been there for the last couple of Q1s. He is back at the back. We are opting for the mediums in Q2, only 4/10 a lap slower, so it shouldn't be too difficult to make it comfortably through. The reason why I'm going for the medium tyres is generally just because I want to try mediums to softs opposed to AI soft mediums. Also, my teammates are likely to opt for the mediums in this session and also make it through on them. So that's the plan for us. We want to try and match Charles and be able to fight him a little bit. We're taking it a bit too tight at that last corner there, and a little snap of oversteer on the exit. But now down the hanger straight, DRS is enabled, and we just want a solid lap on these mediums. That should put us comfortably through into the final part of quali. Now heading through Maggots and then into Beckett and Chapel. What a fantastic section of track here at Silverstone. Really close on the exit, but that really has paid off. Valtteri Bottas, a 1 minute 26. We might get into the 1 minute 25 today. Hopefully we get there. I think we probably will. And running a little bit too wide on the exit. We're coming towards the end of our lap. It's been okay. Perez, 1 minute 25, 561. Very solid lap from him. Don't know if we're going to be able to beat that. I think he's on the soft compound tyres. Hamilton has crossed the line. We crossed the line. P2. I'll take that. We return to the pits and down to P6. Bottas behind us on the mediums. Hamilton behind us on the mediums. So those two are going to be going again on softs. and probably improving. But to be honest, I think we're safe. Yes, we're going to leave it because I don't think Ricciardo is going to gain 5/10 in one lap on us. And looking at results of Q2, it was certainly a good decision as we are P9 at the end of that all and comfortably through on the medium tyres. Along with me on the medium tyres is, as expected, my teammate Charles Leclerc. But P1 in Q2, we've got Max Verstappen in front of Lewis Hamilton, the Red Bull regaining some pace, just though in front of a strong looking Mercedes this weekend in the hands of Lewis Hamilton, of course, at his home Grand Prix. Sergio Perez is P3 in his Red Bull. A little bit disappointing to be slightly off the pace of his teammate, but solid work there. He's in front of George Russell in the Ferrari, finding a lot better pace than he found in Q1 in front of my teammate Charles Leclerc, who was in that seat last season. Valtteri Bottas is P6 in Q2. Very disappointing for him considering how strong his teammate looks in that Mercedes and how far he is behind the Red Bulls. Bit of work for him to do heading into Q3. Lando Norris and Daniel Ricciardo are P7 and P8. The McLarens look really strong in Q1. That seems to have dropped off a little bit, but both of them are comfortably through. Norris back ahead of his teammate Daniel Ricciardo. That seems to be the common trend. We are P9 and through on the medium tyres. We'll start the race on them with the exact same strategy probably as my teammate Charles. And then making it through in Q2 is Pierre Gasly. What a lap from the Frenchman. You love to see it. And he is through to Q3. Fantastic work there. Beating the Alpines, beating the AlphaTauri, his AlphaTauri teammate, and the Aston Martins, and a Ferrari. The bounce back of AlphaTauri, and certainly the bounce back of Pierre Gasly. P11 is the Spaniard Carlos Sainz in his Ferrari, knocked out in Q2. Absolute disaster for him, and a real shame considering how quick his teammate was. Real shame for Carlos Sainz there. Couldn't pull it together, and of course, low focus proving very costly here in Q2. He's knocked out. That really is quite a shock. In front of his fellow countryman, Fernando Alonso in the Alpine, who doesn't manage to make it through to Q3. Bit of a shame that he couldn't compete with Pierre Gasly, 6/10 behind him. Still solid work, and he's in front of Lance Stroll, who we're really happy with, P13. And then AlphaTauri, it is improving, but it certainly isn't the best car on the grid at the moment. So solid work from the Canadian to take P13 still, though. Hold second behind his teammates. So a bit of work to do there when it comes down to when it really matters. Esteban Ocon is P14 in his Alpine. A little bit disappointing for him considering he is 2/10 behind a slower AlphaTauri, but I'm sure Esteban will work there from there in the race and hopefully work up the field a little bit with his teammate Fernando Alonso. And then we got P15 and P16, Aston Martins of Schwartzman and Matsushita. No surprises to see those two at the back considering they are sort of nearly the slowest cars in the session if we bar out the AlphaTauris, of course. Schwartzman quicker than his teammate Matsushita. And now we are into Q3, the big part of qualifying. It's a decent start from that through turn 1 and turn 2. I've really struggled through high-speed corners this weekend with the car. Really unstable. The rear is not happy. It's not planting itself, and you can see there on the exit bit too snappy with the throttle, but especially through turn 1, turn 2, having to lift. I didn't have to do that last season. The car doesn't feel that great, but not a bad start to this lap. A purple sector 1. It really has felt quite smooth. We're hooking it a little too close there to the inside at Luffield. And now coming towards the end of the lap, it has been a very decent one to say the least. And hopefully we can set a top 2 time. Absolutely love this section as an end to the lap. Really nice. Quite slow speed. Fantastic way to finish off the lap here at Silverstone. But now crossing the line, and it's P1! Provisional pole, 1 minute 24.892. I cannot believe it. Charles has been on pole all 5 other times this season, and he's just behind by 19 thousandths. Then it's Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, Sergio Perez in P5, ahead of Daniel Ricciardo. Great work from him to be in P6. Bottas all the way down there in P7 in front of Lando Norris, George Russell, and as expected, Pierre Gasly in P10. And we are heading out again to try and defend our P1. But I can't quite believe that. Charles has been comfortably ahead of us in every Q3 session so far this season, but we are on provisional pole. But we've got to keep that though, and I don't know if I can go any quicker. It's a lovely lap, but here we go, a lovely start to Sector 1 this time round actually. Little wide on the exit onto the green strip, and oh! A big dosage of oversteer. Despite that, we're not losing a ridiculous amount of time. Although I think we might have to sort of abandon this lap at this stage through Brooklands. Took a bit too much of those sausage curbs. And way too tight at Luffield. Yeah, I think we're going to have to scrap the lap. Not confident enough on the exit. And towards the end of the lap, we have scrapped it. The focus now for us is just to focus on the next couple of laps. We had a bit of a warm-up lap. But the interesting thing, George Russell is out onto the track. Both McLarens are out on track. Both Mercedes are out on track. But my teammate is not out on track. Neither is Pierre Gasly or either of the Red Bulls. Now, I don't know if they're leaving it late, but to me, it seems like they're not coming out. And if they don't come out, I think I should have pole, because I don't think the Mercedes have enough to pull it out the bag. Anyway, we are on another lap. It's a little bit messy of a start to Sector 1 here. Took it a bit too wide through that previous section. But now into Brooklands and then into Luffield. We're pretty solid through here. Sector 1 seems to be where we're excelling, even though it's my least favourite sector. Little bit weird there, but it seems to be where we're getting the pace over the AI and getting those purple sectors. Continuing along this lap, it's pretty solid so far. We're not managing to go any quicker, but of course we can gain through cops, and we do exactly that, braving it out through there, carrying a bit more speed, a little bit less of a lift. And now through Maggots and Beckett's and into Chapel, it's a pretty clean, smooth run through there, and a very confident exit. That's a purple sector 2, and I think this should certainly be plenty to put it way out of reach of the Mercs, because my teammate isn't coming out, the Red Bulls aren't coming out, so I think we are going to be on pole here. And now as we come towards the end of the lap, taking it nicely through the left-hander, now the right-hander, and now the final right-hander a little bit on the orange curve on the outside line. But look at that, 3/10 quicker, 1 minute 24, 5:42, and that is surely pole for ourselves here at the British Grand Prix, our home GP, and I think we've got pole in the bag. We're going to go again, though, because it was a very messy first sector last time round, and you can see that we've had a very smooth one this time round. 2.5 tenths quicker. I wouldn't mind making it a 1 minute 23, potentially. Bit optimistic, but a good start to the lap. Now through Luffield, a little bit uncomfortable through there. On the exit, got to be confident, and we are pretty confident. We are losing a bit of time there, though. Leclerc ahead of Bottas. Bottas goes P3. Verstappen dropped down to P4 here. Hamilton is in P5. Nicely through Copse, but we are losing a bit of time. We need a solid finish to the lap through Maggots and Beckett's, and yeah, we had to slow down there just to keep the car comfortable, and then went over the sausage curbs. That's really costly there. And as you can see, we've just abandoned this lap pretty much. But we are on pole here for the British Grand Prix. I can't quite believe it, because Charles has been so dominant in quali. But look at that. P1 in Q3. 1 minute 24. 5:42 is the lap. And a perfect way to start off this weekend, and a great place to start the race from. Charles will line up alongside me. A little bit behind me, of course, didn't go out again, and he paid the price for that. His best lap of 1 minute 24, 9:11. He'll start, of course, P2. Then, of course, just behind Charles, Max Verstappen can capitalise on Charles not going out, because he didn't go out either. Valtteri Bottas, though, did capitalise. He moved up to P3. Great work from him after a dismal Q2 session to be up there in P3. Couldn't make it into the 1 minute 24s, though. Max Verstappen, P4, after he didn't go out again. A little bit behind Valtteri Bottas there. Of course, that's because he didn't go out again. Had he gone out again, maybe we would have stood a better chance. Lewis Hamilton, P5 in his Mercedes. A little bit disappointing to be behind his teammate when it got down to the crucial part of quali, but still a strong starting point for the race. He's followed by George Russell, a very strong P6 in his Ferrari, showing great qualifying pace so far. Hopefully he can carry that into the race. The only Ferrari, of course, in Q3, and a solid result for him. Sergio Perez, though, will be quite disappointed to say the least with P7. Really poor lap there. Only did one, and is way behind his teammate, Max Verstappen, whole 4/10. So a lot of work for Perez to do in the race, and we got both McLarens of Norris and Ricciardo. It was looking promising at the start of quali, a bit disappointing now. Norris in front of his teammate Ricciardo by just a 10th. They are, though, both ahead of Carlos Sainz, so not too bad for the constructors. And then, as expected, Pierre Gasly P10, but great to see him in Q3. But now, of course, it is time for the British Grand Prix.
Great Britain, then, one of only 2 countries to have held a Grand Prix in every single year of the Formula One World Championship. And the circuit extends that record further for today's Grand Prix. Straddling the border of Northamptonshire and Buckinghamshire, the 18 corners of the Silverstone circuit form the 3.6-mile beating heart of Formula One. It's been reinvented over the years, with Turn 1 now the fast right-hander of Abbey, but the magic of racing is as strong here as it's ever been. It's just about time to go to the track for the beginning of the race, but before we do, Anthony Davidson, what types of strategy do you think we can expect for today's event?
Well, there's a lot that both the driver and the team have to keep in mind when going into a race. The tyres, fuel, energy recovery systems, the list goes on and on. But I think the key to today's victory will come down to the pit stop strategy. Come in too soon and you might find yourself needing more than one stop. Too late and you're putting yourself at a disadvantage by spending longer on worn tyres.
It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. It's the owner-driver in pole position then, and it's Charles Leclerc in P2. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Bottas, Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton and Russell, Perez, Norris, Ricciardo and Pierre Gasly, Sainz, Fernando Alonso, Lance Stroll and Ocon, Matsushita, Joe, Yuki Tsunoda and Antonio Giovinazzi, Mick Schumacher, Latifi, Mazepin and Robert Schwartzman. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track.
Just a solitary grid penalty heading into this one. And it's for Robert Schwartzman, who is dropped to the back of the grid. Real shame after a strong P15 in quali. He's got a bit of work to catch up to his teammate Matsushita in the race. In terms of starting tides, everyone is on the softs apart from me and my teammate, as we made it through Q2 on the mediums. Of course, the rest of the top 10 have to go for the softs because they used that compound in the second part of quali. In terms of our strategy, though, we're going to go start on the mediums and then go to the softs until the end of the Grand Prix. The hards are going to be way too slow, and of course, with tyre wear being low around here, that has to be the strategy. And here we go then in Britain. 5 red lights. They're out and away we go for our home Grand Prix. It's not the cleanest of starts, but a disaster for my teammate Charles Leclerc, who's getting swamped as we head into turn 1. It's ourselves ahead of Bottas, Verstappen, Leclerc, and then Russell and Hamilton are fighting. Hamilton is going to have the inside line for the next corner, and I think he's going to be able to seal the deal. Yes, he is there. Then, looking a bit further down the order, we've got Perez, Norris, Gasly, Ricciardo, Sainz, Alonso, Stroll, Matsushita, Esteban Ocon, and Nobuharu Matsushita are going side by side as we head down the hangar straight. This could get spicy into Brooklands. It's Ocon round the outside line. Great work there, but now Tsunoda's going to try and follow through on Matsushita down the inside line at Luffield. Great move from Yuki Tsunoda, and Matsushita is getting absolutely swamped here as he drops down into P16. His teammate not making much progress either. Then looking a bit further down the order, we've got Latifi in front of Schumacher and Mazepin, and Robert Schwartzman, who's getting very close to the back of Nikita Mazepin. He's going to try and set it down the inside line. A little bit of contact there. Nearly escalating into something worse, but great work there to get the move done for Robert Schwartzman into P21. Meanwhile, Max Verstappen down the inside line of Valtteri Bottas, not waiting for DRS, trying to get the move done. Now they're side by side as we head towards the end of the first lap here. Verstappen with the inside line to finish this lap, and he does manage to get the move done up into P2 for the Red Bull. Meanwhile, my teammate Charles Leclerc looking to pick up the leftovers side by side through turn 1 with Valtteri Bottas. He's going to continue that through turn 2, but slots back into P4. He'll have to overtake later in the Grand Prix. Norris is 8th ahead of Gasly and Ricciardo rounding out the top 10. We've got Sainz, Alonso, Stroll, Ocon, Tsunoda, Matsushita, Zhou, Giovinazzi, Latifi, Schumacher, Schwartzman, and then Nikita Mazepin, who rounds out the field. We are currently then on lap number 2, a purple sector 1 this time round, as you'd expect, of course, because we started from a standing start last time round. But it's been a very solid start to the Grand Prix in terms of the position. I'm struggling to find that rhythm so far. We do need to find that because Verstappen is really chasing at us with his soft tyres, and he is already massively gone away from Valtteri Bottas. That gap's a whole second, so Bottas is, well, nearly a second now. He'll probably be out of DRS by the time we reach the hangar straight on lap number 3, and we're starting lap number 3 here. Verstappen does, of course, go quickest after a snap of oversteer on the exit of the final corner for ourselves. DRS is enabled, and now further on lap number 3, Pierre Gasly is currently causing a gap between the two McLarens of Lando Norris and Daniel Ricciardo. Ricciardo down there in P10, and he's going to be using a healthy dose of DRS down this lovely second DRS zone, down the inside line into this right-hander, a really fast right-hander. And he gets the move done. Fantastic work from Daniel Ricciardo. He is up the order. Meanwhile, Robert Schwartzman continues to make progress up to P20 for him. Charles Leclerc, my teammate, is starting to chase on to Valtteri Bottas. Meanwhile, we've got Pierre Gasly versus Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz sending it down the inside line of Pierre Gasly into turn 1, getting the move done. Very brave there from him. Up into P10. And now Gasly is dropped out of the points after a very strong start to this Grand Prix. My teammate Charles Leclerc, though, is catching on to the back of Valtteri Bottas with DRS down the inside line as we head into Brooklands. But Valtteri Bottas is going to fight back here. He's got those soft tyres. He's got the better tyres for this battle. Charles on the mediums, which of course are more durable, but not that great on lap number 4. Down the... It's going to go round the outside line and then round the outside line once again into Copse. He's going to have to try and stick it out through here. He does exactly that and gets the move done up into P3. Good recovery after a poor start to this Grand Prix. Then Valtteri Bottas isn't going to be close enough now, and he's not going to be able to fight back at Charles at the next DRS. So meanwhile, Guan Yu Zhou versus Antonio Giovinazzi. Giovinazzi down the inside line of the Alfa Romeo. Great work from the Williams. He's making decent progress too in this Grand Prix. Good drive from the Italian so far here on lap number 4, and a great view of his front wing. Not that helpful, but as you can see, he's got the move done there. On to lap number 5 then for ourselves, and quite far onto it. The issue is, though, that we're really struggling to find that rhythm so far, and Max is getting quite close to the back of us, of course. The gap back to Charles, pretty comfortable. That's 3.5 seconds, but Max is certainly within a second. He's within half a second at the moment, and we have to be quite careful that we don't make any mistakes, because of course he's going to be able to pounce on those when he gets to a DRS zone. Heading into the first braking zone of the lap, pretty clean through there, into the second braking zone, and we run a little wide on exit. Thankfully we don't lose too much time, and we are going to be able to cement our P1 and lock that in for the rest of this lap. Now then, Sergio Perez, currently P7, he will want to clear George Russell in this Grand Prix to be able to get onto the back of the Mercs and try to get up to his teammate Max Verstappen, who's way up the road at this stage in the Grand Prix. But Perez is pulling over, and it's a mechanical failure for Sergio Perez. What a shame for the Red Bull. One of the McLarens nearly ploughing into the side of him. What a shame, though, for Sergio Perez crawling along here. Oh, the Mexican out of the Grand Prix on lap number 7. Oh, what a shame. Pierre Gasly is now through into P10 and retakes that points position, and we are now going to see the Strucken Sergio to the left-hand side of the track there. Real shame for Checo. Bit more bad luck. His teammate, meanwhile, is right on the back of us, trying to badger us, and we take way too much the inside curb there. We shouldn't have been on the red curbing. That was pretty messy, to say the least. And now Max Verstappen within 2/10. He has DRS. We're going to force him to the outside line. I don't want to fight too much into Brooklands. Don't want to let it get messy. And he comes through into P1. We're going to have to fight back towards the end of this lap, of course, with the next DRS zone to try and retake our P1. But actually, we got a great run off Lovefield compared to Max. And we're going to think about a move into Copse, but I don't particularly want to go side by side into there. That could have got very, very messy. We back out. Happy to pit on lap number 17. These medium tyres holding up pretty well. And we are slowly starting to find our rhythm, but Still a couple of little mistakes. Now, though, we have stayed very close to the back of Max Verstappen through that lovely winding S's section with Marcus Beckett and Chappell, and now down the inside line. We're getting the move done comfortably before the braking zone with that aid of DRS and our fantastic Ferrari engine as we fly back into P1. And now a recap of the order. We currently lead the Grand Prix from Max Verstappen, who sits in P2. Then it's my teammate Charles Leclerc a little bit further back in P3. He leads Mercedes of Bottas and Hamilton. Russell is then in P6, ahead of Lando Norris, and then his teammate Daniel Ricciardo. Carlos Sainz has recovered to P9 from 11th on the grid, with Pierre Gasly rounding out the points in P10. He's being chased down by Fernando Alonso, Lance Stroll and Esteban Ocon. Then a little bit further back, you've got Yuki Tsunoda currently on his own in front of Nobuharu Matsushita. Then it's Antonio Giovinazzi and Guan Yu Zhou. Just after Guan Yu Zhou, we've got Nicholas Latifi and Robert Schwartzman, who's going to be thinking about a move on Latifi pretty soon. And then rounding out the runners, we've got Mick Schumacher and Nikita Mazepin. Lap number 10 here, and Max Verstappen has been on these soft tyres for quite a while, of course. 10 laps of this Grand Prix, and the running in Q2, and I'm starting to wonder, will we see him in this lap, or will it be next lap? It certainly won't be too long until we start to see some pit stops. I don't have to pit for quite a while, actually, because I'm on the medium tyres, but Max Verstappen is into the pits. Charles Leclerc, of course, will stay out. He's on the medium tyres. Bottas stays out. Hamilton is in for Mercedes. Russell is in. Norris stays out. Ricciardo is in. And Carlos Sainz stays out here. So Valtteri Bottas crawling round the corner. Not him crawling around the corner. Max Verstappen crawling around the corner. He is getting his pit stop sorted. Nicely done at Red Bull. Lewis Hamilton. Nicely done at Mercedes there. Of course, Daniel Ricciardo into the pits too. He'll want a nice clean stop. Yep, the mediums are on for him. George Russell has been released from his pit box. And Pierre Gasly also in this lap. He'll want a lovely fresh set of medium tyres from the AlphaTauri garage. Gets that sorted. Verstappen out in front of Yuki Tsunoda. Hamilton is going to exit behind Giovinazzi. Will it be in front or behind of Matsushita? Going to be very close. Hamilton down the inside line, but Nobuharu Matsushita sticks it out around the outside line on his warm, soft tyres, and he's going to try and keep it down the inside line, but Hamilton gets the move done. Latifi and Russell currently side by side now. Russell getting the move done round the outside line of the Williams. Some fantastic battling here. Meanwhile, we've got Robert Schwartzman versus Latifi. Schwartzman trying to pick up the pieces of Carlos Sainz's moves on Nicholas Latifi, and he gets the move done down the inside line. That's Schwartzman now up into P16, and we've got side by side between Pierre Gasly and Mick Schumacher. Schumacher down the inside line trying to defend the position, but then it's Pierre Gasly keeping the position. Meanwhile, Guan Yu Zhou versus George Russell. Another fantastic fight. These two side by side, but Russell gets the move done on Guan Yu Zhou. Meanwhile, Valtteri Bottas is into the pits, crawling through the pit lane into his pit box, gets the pit stop done. Great work from his team. Lando Norris with a lovely pit stop there, nearly coming out into the back of Carlos Sainz, but well judged there from the McLaren driver. So Carlos also in. Alonso is into the pit. So is Lance Stroll. A nice pit stop for Fernando and a nice pit stop for Lance. The question is, where are they going to come out compared to Pierre Gasly? Verstappen's P4. Bottas comes out in P5. Hamilton is P6, and it's Lando Norris in front of George Russell. Carlos Sainz going to be next to Guan Yu Zhou. Sainz on the hard tyres, Zhou on those worn softs, and he gets that, doesn't manage to get that move done, and Zhou is in front. We've got, at the moment, potentially a battle here. Ricciardo is currently P12 behind Robert Schwartzman, but Carlos Sainz isn't happy with his P10 down the inside line, but on the hard tyres. Really poor choice from Ferrari there, and that could really cost him in terms of pace compared to the McLarens and his teammate in this Grand Prix. But Guan Yu Zhou P10, then it's Robert Schwartzman and Daniel Ricciardo. Ricciardo really wanting to clear Schwartzman to catch up to Sainz, who's on slower, hard tyres, and he's getting quite impatient behind the Aston Martin here. It's Daniel Ricciardo. He's got a very decent run, but it's not going to be enough to be able to fight into Maggots and Beckett's. For Danny Rake, the Honey Badger's going to have to wait until the next DRS zone for a potential move. And now DRS is activated for him, but also for Robert Schwartzman, because he's getting DRS from Guan Yu Zhou. And Ricciardo can't come through. Real frustration for Daniel there. Meanwhile, Esteban Ocon is into the pits. the Alpine, searching for a fresh set of medium tyres. Who is he going to be joined by then? I'm guessing, I think Guan Yu Zhou is coming into the pits. Yes, he is, joined by Robert Schwartzman and Nicholas Latifi. We've got quite a train going on here. Fernando Alonso continuing along, of course, he's already pitted. Question is, where is he going to be? So, Guan Yu Zhou is into the pits. Everything's happening at the moment. The mediums are on for him. We've got Esteban Ocon behind Lance Stroll. So it's Alonso, Gasly, Stroll, Ocon, Sonoda, Schwartzman, Guan Yu Zhou, Nicholas Latifi, all continuing along. Giovinazzi speeding through. He goes through into P15. Will Schwartzman be out in front or behind his teammate? Behind, but he's going to have the inside line into the first braking zone of lap. Turn 3. Can't get the move done, though. And Nobuharu Matsushita is in front of him. Then we've got behind those two, Zhou, Latifi, Schumacher and Nikita Mazepin in P21, but Robert Schwartzman does not want to delay any progress here down the inside line of his teammate using that DRS, but it's now side by side. Matsushita with the inside line, of course, for Luffield, and keeps the position. Fantastic battling between the teammates, these two young drivers dueling for P16. What a recovery it has been in this Grand Prix for Robert Schwartzman from the back of the grid, and he's trying to continue that. Meanwhile, we've got Lance Stroll versus Esteban Ocon. Esteban Ocon in the Alpine trying to go down the inside line of Lance Stroll, and he gets the move done on the slower Alpha Tauri. Meanwhile, Nobuharu Matsushita and Robert Schwartzman are very, very close at the moment. Matsushita might be in front of his teammate, but Robert, with that DRS, is going to try around the outside line. Interesting option there. He's going to try and stick it out round there. Meanwhile, his teammate, Nobuharu Matsushita, has the inside line. This could get very, very, very spicy because these two are going to go side by side, I think. Meanwhile, Daniel Ricciardo versus Carlos Sainz. The battling continues. Ricciardo sailing past Carlos Sainz, who's on those hard tyres, gets the move done by the time he's finished. Luffield, further back down the field, Matsushita is in front of Robert Schwartzman. Plenty of action so far in this Grand Prix. That 14 out of 26. Question is, though, can Schwartzman get past Matsushita and then push on to Antonio Giovinazzi, or will we sort of just see similar pace for both of them? Either way, we've got Matsushita versus Schwartzman. Potentially, no, we don't have that battle into Brooklands. Robert Schwartzman can't get close enough despite that dosage of DRS. Now then, on to lap number 15, and these two are going to be at it once again. Fantastic battle between these two teammates. You'll love to see it. Both young drivers, of course, one a rookie. Schwartzman might have been here for 3 seasons, was with me in season 1, but it's almost like a rookie season for him because it's finally a season where he's getting some decent results and really enjoying, I think, his driving in F1, getting some very strong performances. Meanwhile, down the inside line of Nobuharu Matsushita, a great move there from Robert Schwartzman, but Matsushita's going to fight it back. We could have side-by-side through this section. Down the inside line for the Japanese driver, but then Schwartzman's going to fight back down the inside line there. Incredible fighting through the final corner. Schwartzman up into P16. Absolutely beautiful racing. Meanwhile, my teammate Charles Leclerc is in to get rid of those medium tyres. He's been on those for quite a while in this Grand Prix, so I'm not surprised he wants to try and ditch them. Of course, it should be the soft tyres that are going on his car. Hopefully our pit crew can do well. Yeah, the soft tyres are going on. Good pit stop there for him. We will probably react this lap or next lap, but with the gap we had to Charles, it doesn't really matter whether it's this lap, next lap, or the lap after. The question is, who's he going to come out ahead of? It should be out ahead of Valtteri. Yes, Charles comes to be out ahead of Valtteri. He will have to overtake Max Verstappen. Norris currently P6, ahead of Russell, Ricciardo and Sainz. Alonso's P10 at the moment in this Grand Prix with that final points position. But we are going to be heading into the pits this lap number 17, and I want some lovely fresh softs. Bit of a exceeding track limits there. We managed to take a bit too much of the curb, but it's our first one of the Grand Prix. It's fine. Anyway, we are into the pits. We're going to get rid of these medium tyres and get on some fresh soft tyres. We left a set of softs in Q2 because we used the mediums for the Grand Prix, and we should be blisteringly quick. hopefully we can secure our fastest lap with this stint on the soft tyres, and it's a reasonably good pit stop from the team. 2.4 second stop in the pit lane there. I'm pretty happy with that. And we will be out comfortably ahead of Max Verstappen as he's only heading through that final section of corners, not even crossed the line to start lap number 18. And there we go. We are out onto the track on our fresh soft tyres, and hopefully they'll feel pretty nice after a couple of laps, warming them up, and already feeling a bit more grippy than those worn medium tyres. Hopefully they'll give us some very decent pace in this GP. Charles Leclerc, though, my teammate, is going to probably be getting quite impatient now behind Max Verstappen. He's pitted and has very quickly caught up to Max. Of course, Charles on those fresh, soft tyres. He is probably going to breeze past Max Verstappen. Doesn't seem too windy here today at the British Grand Prix, but he is certainly going to provide some dashing along the hangar straight. DRS is open. This should be pretty comfortable for him. And it looks like it won't actually be. He doesn't manage to sail past Max, and he's down the inside line at Brooklands, but Max is going to have the inside line for Luffield, and a fantastic battle between these two, of course, known each other from the karting days. And we're seeing a great battle. It's now side by side. Charles, you can see he's got better grip, managing to hang it around the outside line. Into Copse we go, and Charles managed to cement the move. But a fantastic battle between those two, despite the tyre difference, and great work from my teammate Charles to take that P2. So 1-2 for the team at the moment. Max drops down to third, but he should be pretty comfortable for another great podium result in that Red Bull this weekend. Using that DRS, he's not going to get close enough, and I think he might have to give up on his hopes of a optimistic P2 this weekend. Fernando Alonso has gone pretty well so far in this Grand Prix. P10 at the moment, and this is the fight, and a pivotal fight for that solitary point, and that is a really big fight for Alpine, of course. They want to get some more points on the board and extend their lead over Aston Martin. Meanwhile, Gasly wants to continue some AlphaTauri point scoring. That seems to have stopped for a couple of Grand Prix. He wants to keep that going at this point. On board with him, and it's smoke out the back of Alonso's car. It's a mechanical failure. Gasly nearly crashing into the back of him. But Fernando Alonso is out of the Grand Prix. Oh, what a shame. He was running in P10. It was fantastic work from him. Gasly takes that final points position ahead of Ocon and Stroll. But what a shame for Fernando Alonso. I can't quite believe that in this Grand Prix. A real shame for the Spaniard, and we can now see that struck an Alpine on the left-hand side that we just passed there. In terms of the pace on these mediums, it's pretty, not mediums, on the softs, it's pretty decent. Not as great as I was potentially expecting, but I think, we should be all right to secure that fastest lap from Charles in this GP. Our best lap so far, 1 minute 26.219, so that is pretty solid. This time around, it has been a little messy. It really does feel like an extended qualifying session at the moment, and you just have to pit once and keep going and keep going. It really does feel like that, but I love those situations. I love when you've got battling with the cars, but also those Grand Prix where it's just push, push, push for the whole Grand Prix. And it really, for us, is just bring it home now and keep putting in some decent laps to secure that extra point. And now, lap 23 out of 26. Only a few laps left in this Grand Prix. It's gone really quickly, but it's been a really, really great British Grand Prix. And as you can see, we're approaching Latifi and Guan Yu Zhou, the two back markers here. Latifi should let us comfortably through. And will Zhou let us through? Thank you, Guan Yu. And oh, look at that! Latifi gets the move on Guan Yu Zhou because he had to slow down just before Copse to let us through. Oh, what a shame for Guan Yu Zhou. That's got to be very frustrating for him, losing out to Nicholas Latifi. In terms of a refresh of the order, then we lead from Charles Leclerc, who is currently in P2. Then it's Max Verstappen dropping further away in P3. Then we've got Valtteri Bottas, comfortably in front of Lewis Hamilton, who is being chased down by Lando Norris, who is within 1 second. Great work from the McLaren. Then it's George Russell in P7 in his Ferrari. Ricciardo is chasing him down. Then Carlos Sainz continues to struggle on his hard tyres in P9, followed by Pierre Gasly in the final points position. Esteban Ocon starting to drift away. He's in front of Lance Stroll. And then quite a way back, we've got Yuki Tsunoda in his Alfa Romeo. Then, of course, Antonio Giovinazzi, Robert Schwartzman and Matthew Sheeter forced to slow down for me coming through, And that has brought Matsushita right onto the back of Robert Schwartzman. We could have some more fighting here, but he backs off. But he doesn't. He keeps going. Matsushita side by side with Schwartzman. This gets very close, and he gets the move done, I think, there. Fantastic work. I thought he was backing off, but then he goes for the move. Great work there, but it might not have been the best time move, because now Robert Schwartzman's coming back at him with that DRS, and he's going to try and get that move done to keep the position, and he does exactly that. Fantastic battling, but now more side-by-side action. Matsushita down the inside line now, through the final couple of corners. He's going to get the move done. Scintillating to watch, and that's P15 for Matsushita, P16 for Robert Schwartzman. They're in front of Nicholas Latifi and Wan Yusho, who's dropped down to P18. Frustrating for him. Then it's Mick Schumacher and Nikita Mazepin who rounds out those who are still running. But this is an absolutely insane Grand Prix, and we are coming towards the end of it here. Lap number 25. I absolutely cannot believe this one, but it has been an absolute pleasure to drive. This lap, not too great of a lap at all. A bit messy. Having a couple of messy laps to finish the Grand Prix, trying to push, but then making a few little mistakes as these softs start to wear. And my teammate takes the fastest lap, 1:25.615. We're going to try to push this time round to try and retake that position, but a bit wide there, and I think that's pretty much our chance has gone. But what a Grand Prix it has been. We've had the better race pace pretty much than my teammate, I would probably say. It's been pretty close, but of course we got a better start. He dropped behind Verstappen and Bottas on the start, and he paid the price for that. But of course, it's probably not going to be the Grand Slam, because we're not going to take the fastest lap, I don't think, here this weekend. But we have finished every single lap in this Grand Prix in the lead, and we took pole, and we are going to win our first British Grand Prix, our first home Grand Prix. It's only taken 3 seasons to do it. But after the frustration last season of that mechanical failure, we are fighting back in my team season 3. We are going to speed past Yuki Tsunoda, who is letting us come through the back marker there. But a pivotal result for ourselves. We will close further in on Charles Leclerc in the championship, and another victory this season to add to our tally now. 3 in a row. France, Austria, and now our home Grand Prix here in Silverstone.
Plenty of action here at Silverstone. It was a memorable race, and what an impressive victory. And talk to me, what do you think it was that sealed the win for them?
Well, they certainly stood out as a driver with tons of confidence on the track. I think their ability to keep their cool, even during some of the more hectic parts of the race, meant they were able to capitalise on the mistakes of other drivers, giving them the opportunity to make their way to the top spot with ease.
Welcome then to the podium, our top 3 drivers. What a great effort from them today in a very difficult race.
A simply fantastic Grand Prix for ourselves at home today. All 25 points in a race completed in 38 minutes with that one-stop strategy for ourselves. P1 at the grid and P1 at the flag. Our best lap of 1:25.786. Almost a perfect Grand Slam. Just missing that fastest lap, but really great weekend for ourselves. And a solid weekend for my teammate Charles Leclerc. Decent race for him. 19 points in the end, of course, taking that fastest lap of 1:25.615. A blisteringly quick lap, but of course, at the start of the Grand Prix, that mistake at the start, the slow start, really cost him, and that put him out of contention for the race win. P3 was Max Verstappen from 4th on the grid. Once again, better than those behind him in terms of pace and taking a solid podium, and 15 points, well deserved, for the Dutchman. He was followed by both Mercedes, Valtteri Bottas in front of his teammate Lewis Hamilton. Bottas, once again, slightly better pace than his teammate. Couldn't finish P3 after a great quali result, but still, P4 and 12 points, a very respectable result for him. Followed by his teammate Lewis Hamilton, also in the Mercedes, from 5th on the grid to 5th at the flag. A solid drive from him, but 10 points in the end. Couldn't quite match his teammate today. Lando Norris was P6 with a fantastic drive, really close to the back of the arguably slightly quicker Mercedes. He takes 8 points today for McLaren in a very solid drive from 8th on the grid. P7 was George Russell in his Ferrari. He'll be reasonably happy with that to take 6 points in the end. Unlike his teammate, opted for the medium tyres for the second stint and managed to get a solid result. Daniel Ricciardo was P8, a little bit off his teammate once again in terms of pace, but a solid 4 points for him and 8th at the flag from 9th on the grid. He'll be happy with that. Maybe just needs to work on his pace to catch up to his teammate a tad. And then P9 Carlos Sainz. Good recovery from 11th, but could have been a bit more than 2 points had he not have opted for the hard tyres at the end of the Grand Prix. That proved costly. 2 points in the end, though, for him. And then P10, Pierre Gasly back on the scoreboard. A point for him here with a great one-stop strategy executed fantastically from the Frenchman in that resurging Alpha Tauri car. He was followed by his fellow countryman Esteban Ocon, who missed out on points. Didn't quite have the pace of Pierre Gasly, but had a good battle with Lance Stroll out there. Good result for Esteban, just missing out and getting on the scoreboard. Lance Stroll was P12, very solid result for him. Stayed with the Alpine of Ocon for large portions of the race. And of course, the Alpine being quicker car, great work from Lance. Yuki was P13 at the flag. A great drive from 17th on the grid. He'll be really happy with that. And the first of those, though, to be lapped. Nonetheless, a great drive from getting knocked out in Q1. P14 was Antonio Giovinazzi, another driver who was knocked out in Q1 but recovered well from 18th to 14th at the flag. Great work from the Italian and drove a really solid, consistent race, which is exactly what you need to do in Formula 1. Then we got the two Aston Martins of Nobuharu Matsushita and Schwartzman. Matsushita, solid drive from him. It could have been a bit better, but 15th to 15th, it's no great drive from the rookie, but of course he had a fantastic battle for the second half of the Grand Prix with his teammate Robert Schwartzman, who was P16 after a fantastic recovery from 22nd on the grid. Definitely a well-deserving driver of the day was Robert out there today. Great drive and a fantastic, entertaining battle with his teammate at Aston Martin. P17 was Nicholas Latifi, a decent drive from 20th on the grid. Once again, not quite got the pace of his teammate, but solid work to make his way up the order. He was then followed by, of course, the Alfa Romeo of Guan Yu Zhou. A real shame for him. Started P16, a really promising quali result, then dropped down to P18. Couldn't quite keep the form throughout the race, and sadly for him, couldn't take a great result. Then we got the two Hasses of Schumacher ahead of his teammate Nikita Mazepin. Schumacher did really well to stay fairly close to the other cars in the Grand Prix. Mazepin, as usual, dropped way off the back. Alonso and Perez failed to finish thanks to mechanical failures. In terms of the driver standings, it's looking very spicy at the top now, with just 11 points behind Charles Leclerc, who has 125. Still, though, plenty of work for us to do in the remaining Grand Prix of this season. Max Verstappen remains P3 and extends his gap back to P4, which is now taken by Valtteri Bottas, who has 47 points. He moves 1 point ahead of Sergio Perez, who failed to score today thanks to a mechanical failure. Lando Norris is P6 in the standings with 38 points. He has 3 more than Lewis Hamilton, who moves up to 7th, continuing his resurgence up the field. George Russell drops down to 8th. He has 32 points on the board, with his teammate Carlos Sainz in 9th with 26. Daniel Ricciardo moves up to a strong 10th. He has 24 points on the board, 1 point in front of Pierre Gasly, the Frenchman, who sits in 11th. Then Lance Stroll has 8 points. Alonso has 6 points, while Robert Schwartzman has 1 point in his Aston Martin. Of course, that was from the Austrian GP, but closing up at the top and a very interesting battle at the moment for P4. No one else below Schwartzman still yet to score. Then we have got the constructor standings, we extend our lead over Red Bull. That's now 106 points, while Mercedes sit in P3, 20 points ahead of McLaren, who move ahead of Ferrari. Ferrari now 4 points behind with 58. AlphaTauri are in 6th with 31 points, while Alpine have just 6 points. Aston Martin have a solitary point. Alfa Romeo, Williams and Haas all still yet to score this season. Well then, what a British Grand Prix, and for the first time in this career mode we managed to take the win. If you guys have enjoyed the video, drop a like down below and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more My Team career mode content. But of course, thanks a lot for watching, and I'll catch you next time on this channel when we move on to the Hungarian Grand Prix. That could be an interesting one.